Now, to address this shortage, we're seeing huge billion-dollar investments in semi-production from the likes of Intel, Taiwan Semi, Samsung. So we will see this multi-year ramp up, but supply and demand here always tricky. Do we risk a supply glut in the future?
Oh, definitely. So these shortages seem to happen, about every 3 or 4 years. What's hurting it or what's making it worse now is COVID, right? So if you look at any sort of assembly line out there, you're running at 25 or 50% capacity. So eventually it'll get solved. But whenever you have these shortages, there's always the encouragement for double ordering. We're probably seeing that already. And yeah, it'll end badly.
If it will end badly, then what are you seeing that these companies whose business it is and who are, ramping up these multi-billion dollars investments, why don't they see that? Why are they taking sort of the other way and ramping up that production if you think there's going to be a glut?
Yeah. So again, it is in the semiconductor customers' best interest, whether it's Dell or HP or Apple or whatever, to order as many parts as possible. And at the end of the day, if they end up with too much product, they will shaft the Intels or the AMDs of the world, right? But if they end up with too little product, like they're having right now, then you might end up losing your job if you work for one of these places. So it's always in their best interest to order a little bit more than possible. And if you take the opposite side of the semiconductor company, I remember Jerry Sanders, the old head of AMD way back when, saying we never met a purchase order we didn't like. So it's very difficult to turn down this number of increased orders. And realistically, I can understand from the semiconductor perspective, it's very hard to tell what's real and what's not. And these shortages and these buildups or these inventory buildups, it could last all year. It could last even into next year. So it's very tricky from the part of a semiconductor manufacturer. And I don't blame either side for this sort of kabuki playing out. It's been going on for 30 years, even before I covered the sector. It's just the normal course of business.
Chris, you were particularly critical of Intel's push to enter the foundry business. You say it has no chance of succeeding. Why do you think that is?
We said it had almost no chance of succeeding, not no chance. So just to let out there, the big problem is they are approaching it from a quote unquote Intel perspective, in that they are making their customers do it on Intel's process. Really, the bottom line is they need foundry people to run this. They have an Intel person running it. They tried this 7 years ago. Really, it was the same set of circumstances. We think it's going to end up being the same thing all over again, unless they go out and hire, 4 or 5 Michael Jordans, if you will, Taiwan Semi, and get them to run the business and really just change the basic approach. But until that happens, it just looks like it's going to, end in disaster like the last one did, no matter how much money they throw at it.
Well, Chris, CEO Pat Gelsinger, he was on our program after they announced this news, and he made the argument why this time is different. He didn't talk about getting foundry people, but he did say that the business is going to be separated, different P&L. And, he is kind of seen as Michael Jordan of the chip business. Why do you think he can't attract the right talent? Is that something that you think he's going to go out and do? Could that give them a better chance of succeeding?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in Pat. I've known him, the first time he was at Intel. I've known him for a couple of decades. I think he was by far the best choice for CEO that Intel could possibly get. And so I like him a lot. However, I do think that there is this, I don't know if you'd call it hubris, but hey, Intel's been very, very successful for multiple decades, kind of doing it their way. And they're still trying to apply that to the foundry business. Now, it is going to help a little bit that they're breaking it out on its own. But again, even when it's out on its own, if you've got the wrong people running it and the wrong approach, it doesn't matter how much money you're going to spend. The other thing is that they've got this full-blown crisis in manufacturing, and I would argue, a lot of people I talk to in the semiconductor industry would argue, you need to fix the crisis first, fix your manufacturing first, and then go after foundry. Try and do 2 things at the same time. You're going to have every fab manager trying to satisfy the foundry guy, trying to fix everything internally. To us, it's just too much. We think that they should, take this thing one step at a time. So yeah, I love Pat. I think that eventually he will at least bring them even, if not pull them ahead of their main rival AMD, which they're losing share to right now. But going after the foundry business, I think, is a completely different animal. There's a lot to do there.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.